Hey guys, welcome to another drone buzz video. In this video, I'm building a small Cinewhoop. This one will be the BetaFPV 95X. So the frame I had put together already, and then what I got this just came in, the FC, and then I got all my parts here, the motors, I got my little camera, my TX thing, and then my Team Blackshick Nano receiver. So all I'm going to do is put it together, and then at the same time I'll give you guys an idea on how to build the little drone. And once all together, then we'll hook it up to the computer and make sure all the software is good to go, so we can get to fly. And then that'll be the whole video right there. So the first things first is this one came with the motors that you can plug in, but the motors I have, they don't have the plug. So instead of adding the plug, I'm actually going to remove the plug off the FC and then put it like this. Now in the drone, this FC, as you can see the arrow or the flight controller, it's this way. So that means this is the front and also this is up. But when I put it into this guy here, I'm not going to put it this way. The reason being is that if I have to fix anything, I'd rather have it where I have access to all the soldering points on top. So I actually put it in there upside down. So like that, if I ever have to fix anything, it's easy to get in there and solder something and solder something back together. But then in order to do that, we have to go into the flight controller with BetaFlight and actually flip it around. And there's a catch to this, because once you flip it over, you have to, once you set it in a BetaFlight, it'll know which way it is, but you also have to reprogram your motor direction, because right now you see you have 2, 1, 4, and 3, but when you flip it, then 4 is here and 3 is here. And then so when it's gonna try to fly, it's not gonna give you the input. So what you do is you have to go into the CLI and then remap your motors, so like that it'll fly properly. So I'll show that at the end when it's all together. So right now, we're gonna remove these 4 plugs here, and then drop that in there and then solder all the parts together and plug it in and see if it works, or see if we got smoke coming out of it. So let's get started here. First thing is I got my little handy tweezer things that's gonna hold it together. But what I do is I put the rubber grommets in there first, just so there's somewhere for these little jaws to bite without damaging the flight controller. So let's put these rubber things through. So we're gonna put this one through here. It's easier with tweezers that are needle nose style. Perfect. So now it's done. We're gonna unsolder them from here. So let's just rotate these guys so we can do this. So I'm gonna turn the iron, and then we're gonna pick I'm gonna go with a blade type tip for the iron to see if I can unsolder all 3 at once, because as you can see it's got 3 legs coming through. So we're gonna see if that works. And for these guys, I actually add a little bit of flux in order to have it unsolder rather quickly. There we go, one is off, perfect. We're just gonna do the other side here. Perfect, so now we can solder in our motors in there. And so now I'm gonna prep the board by tinning it first and changing the tip. And then we can solder all our gear on there. Now we're gonna tin those guys. So we're gonna put a little bit of solder on the iron and then put it on the different parts here. Perfect. So now we're gonna push these guys through from the bottom. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna have the motors running this way instead of that way. So you can see they're gonna be facing downwards because this board is gonna be facing downwards. That's much faster and easier. There we go, much faster and easier. So now we gotta make sure we have all our things soldered properly and we're good to go. So now I'm gonna do 3 more of the motors and then we're good to go. So the next step on this one is that where is it? There you go. So your power leads, they have to go through a little hole here. I'll show you on this guy. So they usually go through here into the board. But so what you have to do is you have to put the board in there and solder them after the fact, because that won't fit. Once if you solder on the board first, it won't fit through here. So what I do is I usually just put the board on and then solder it after the fact. Then it holds in perfectly. So that's what we're gonna do right now. We're gonna follow here. So they have the plus and then the minus. So the red one's gonna go to plus, black one on minus. And then for this one, it's a bigger wire and it's a lot of solder that goes in there. So we're gonna have to use a bigger tip on the soldering iron. Perfect. So now, just gotta do the red one and we're good to go. So now it's powered. We've got red to plus and black to minus. And now we're good to go. So now we could just line the board up just to see how it fits with the motors. So it's not playing nice with those wires here. So I'm gonna have to solder in a different way. I realized my motors, I wanted to solder them on this side instead of the other side. So I guess I can quickly redo this part. I'm gonna change that tip to a smaller tip. Okay, so I'm gonna tin this side again, and I've done right this time. Perfect. So now I'm gonna put these guys back on. Now we'll be good. Perfect. So now we're soldering. On the toothpick boards, you have to solder one of the two depending what you're gonna use. If you're gonna use the bus or not. So I'm gonna quickly hop online and see which one have to be soldered. Actually, I don't have to. My previous board I tried earlier, it has it right here. This is the one from an old BetaFPV drone. I crashed it and then it kind of stopped working after that. But it has the which setup to do, which is right. Nope, this one doesn't. All right, so what we have to do, we have to solder these 2 pads together. So there's 3 here, and then these 2 will be soldered, and that one will be left alone. So let me just put some solder on there. Perfect. That's for the crossfire protocol. So now let's try it again inside the frame, see what happens. Perfect, that fits perfectly. Motors will be right there. I have to give it a couple of twists just to shorten the wire a little bit. Perfect. So now it looks like the power lead is gonna have to go from the top and then spin around. Now we're going to use the tweezers to be able to spin that around and put it in there and solder it in. Okay, one's in. Now we're just going to put the power negative and that's it. There we go, perfect. we're good to go. So we got our motors, we got our power leads. Now we just gotta add our crossfire, and then we gotta add our VTX. And when that's done, we can plug it in and see, make sure everything works good in BetaFlight. And then when we put a power, I have this smoke stopper right here. Then, so like that we can prevent any, if anything is soldered improperly, then it's not gonna catch on fire or anything. Save the FC. So now we're gonna put the crossfire in there. So now the first one here is your TX. So it's gonna go to your TX pad right there. So that's actually the second one in. Right there, so you have first one, second one in. That's where we're gonna put it. So we're gonna tin it first and then add the wires. So let's do that. Perfect. So the RX is the second one. So TX is the second one, RX is the first one. So we're gonna put your TX RX, but then it's backwards on the board. So your RX goes first, and then the TX. And then you get your ground and 5 volts. So black is ground, red is 5. Alrighty. And now we're just gonna solder in our VTX. So the black one's gonna be your ground. We're gonna use this one, your ground, 5 volts, out, in. So yeah, we're gonna wire it up. So first we're gonna tin it again. Put a little bit of flux. I'm struggling quite a big deal with this thing. There we go. Okay, the next one is a 5 volt. So 5 volt is the red one. Perfect. And after that, and our out is our VTX. All right, so VTX is the yellow one. So we're gonna put that on the out. The next one, it'll be your, and then this is your camera. So it'll go into the in. This is your smart audio, which you don't always need, but we put it there anyways. Perfect. Now we'll double check we got it wired properly. T6, yeah, in, out, 5, ground. Perfect. Awesome. So now we're gonna plug it into BetaFlight and then see if everything works properly. Perfect. So I got my micro USB cable that goes to USB-C on my laptop. I'm gonna hook it up and see what we read. Perfect. So let's load up BetaFlight. We have it right there. All right, so let's load up BetaFlight. I'll open this up. Perfect. Now we're gonna plug it in and see if it recognizes anything. Perfect. So as you can see here, I was in there already in the controller because I already set it up where if you flip the quad properly, it'll show proper on the screen. And so if you tilt forward, it'll tilt forward. If you tilt back, oh, BetaFlight is a bit unstable. So let's disconnect this guy. There we go. Perfect. Perfect. So now, once you flip your board over, which I just did, is pretty easy. You go into your configuration. You go right here into your roll degrees and you put 180. And then you don't forget to save and reboot. And that actually gets your board to flip. But then what happens is your motors, as you can see here, they're going to be flipped. So you have to go into your CLI. And what you do when you're there, you punch in dump. And it shows you everything that's on the board. So you have to scroll to resources. And then once you have resources, you'll see, oh, we passed it, no, feature, resources, perfect. and you scroll all the way to motors. So here's your current motors right here, 1, 2, 3, 4. So you control C that. So what you do is right now it says your motor 1 is to this one. So what you do is when you go into you open up your text node, and that's what I did. I have it in there, and then I remapped it to having motor 1 and motor 3 to be switched, and motor 2 and motor 4 to be switched. So once you switch it over, what you do is you just Control C, you paste that in there, and you Control V and then enter. Perfect. So now if you go back to, now you have to put in save. Don't forget to press in save. Save. It's gonna reboot. You go back in there to your CLI, then you punch in dump again. Make sure it's spelled right. There, and then once you do that, you can double check make sure your motors are properly remapped. Go to resources motor, there you go. They are now properly remapped. So the reason you want to do this is when you go into setup, no, not setup, you want to go into configuration. Now your 402 is actually your 402 based on the new layout of the board. So now that we got that set up, we can go ahead and power it up and see if we can connect the controller to it, and then we're gonna have to go into your receiver tab and make sure all this stuff works. So one thing you do is you back up whatever you just done, just so you have it. Right there, save, perfect. And then disconnect, and then plug this. So now we have a little smoke stopper. Here's the scary part when you first knew doing this. And then we're gonna get a battery and then plug it in. Okay, this is the battery, and then the camera. Let's connect the camera so we can see if it works. So now I'm gonna get my goggles and transmitter and then see if everything connects. All right, so let's see if we get smoke or if it works. Perfect. So everything is working good. So we're gonna have to bind our receiver, but first what we're gonna make sure the ECs have the proper updates to them, because sometimes you get a new board, they're not all the same, as I learned the hard way. So we're gonna hook it up to BetaFlight. Okay, so let's hook it up. And then we're not gonna hook it up to BetaFlight, we're actually gonna hook it up to BHeli. Right there, let's see if I can find it here. Oops, I'll open the BetaFlight again. This one here. And then once this is hooked up, what you do is you put power to it, because that's the only way you can read the firmware. You go read setup, and then it takes a little bit. Perfect. So now if you read, it's showing on the screen that we have the same version firmware in all our ESCs. So we press OK. So that's where you can actually update them to new one, but so perfect. So the second thing is now we're going to go into BetaFlight and we're going to disconnect our battery. And that's the thing I've learned to do is once you're into BetaFlight like this one, you go to motors, you make it so you can activate the motors, and you put your master to maximum and you hook them up. And the beeping is slightly different. So now you drop your master down, and now it resets all your motors. And then perfect. So then when it's done, now we are going to finish putting that. Oh, actually we're going to bind it first. So that's what we have to do. So we're going to disconnect it from BetaFlight. Perfect. And now we're going to have to bind it. So I already have this set up in my controller because I already have this drone. Oh no, this one I had a Beta 95X, but I kind of destroyed it, so I'm building another one. So I'm going to reuse all of the switches I had from that one to make for this one. I'm gonna power this up.
Welcome to OpenTX.
That's a familiar sound.
Disarmed. Flight mode acro.
I'm gonna find my old, there we go, there it is, select model.
Disarmed. Flight mode acro.
And then we're gonna connect this. Let's see if it finds it. Oh, it's already bound. Perfect, because this is off my old BetaFlight 95. So perfect. So now we're gonna hook it up back to the BetaFlight and then get our tabs all set up for this drone. So now I'm gonna hook this guy up right here.
Telemetry lost.
Perfect. We're gonna go to the receiver tab, and then now we're gonna power this up and do our adjustments.
Telemetry recovered.
Perfect. So now we're gonna see what does what. So this is
Disarmed.
our. So you know what I forgot to do? I forgot to go into configuration, and this is under. Perfect. So we're gonna put it under serial based, and then we're gonna put FR Sky right there. Perfect. And we're gonna save and reboot. So now let's see if it reads it down.
Disarmed.
Oh, we're gonna have to unplug it and then plug it back in. So let's do that. We're gonna disconnect and disconnect this guy. Perfect. So now we're gonna connect it back together.
Telemetry lost.
And then in the port, make sure where you're UART 3. And so I believe it's the one we used here. So let me just have a quick look. On the internet, I saw it to this one. So it's actually, oops. So this is 1 actually. So we're gonna hook it up to 1. UART 1. So I'm gonna turn this one off, I'm gonna save and reboot. And I also like to disconnect it and then just have a full reboot. I'm gonna plug this in. I'm gonna communicate. Then we're gonna plug this guy in. Perfect.
Telemetry recovered.
So let's see if now the receiver reads anything. Oh, it does.
Disarmed. Disarmed.
Now, as you can see here, the drone is spinning out of control. It's because our sticks are not programmed in properly. So the way I do it is that this is, if you look right here, AETR is for your aileron, and then your, oh, there's BetaFlight crashing again. Seems like it's a common thing. Perfect. So we go to receiver. So if you look at here, you just say roll is A, so you get A, then pitch is E, and then yaw is R, and throttle is T. So you have to remap it. So when you move your throttle, you see that throttle moves A, but you want throttle to be T. So what I do is I swap the A and T. So let's see what T is right now. T is your, this is your pitch. So we're gonna swap your A and T together. So you go, T is gonna go here, and then with this T, you're gonna put an A, right? And then you're gonna save. So now you get to check again. So now our quad stopped spinning. So that's the throttle, which is good. We got our yawn, which works good, okay. And then let's see what we've got here. It looks like our pitch and our roll is backwards, because my roll right now is controlling my pitch, and then my, so what we're gonna swap them. So if you look at this letter, the two that needs to be swapped is A and E. So you just take A and E and change them to there, perfect. Now we're gonna save. And then if we check everything, throttle works. Our arm switch works. And all our switches work.
Flight mode angle.
Yeah.
Flight mode acro.
Perfect.
Disarmed.
Awesome. So then everything works, and then we gotta check this again. So perfect. Now my roller works good, my pitch works good, throw works good, beyond works perfect. Everything's good. We're gonna save that. We're gonna go to your modes, and now we're gonna activate everything.
Disarmed.
So there we go.
Disarmed.
So we're gonna move this one to there.
Disarmed.
Perfect. Save that. And then we're gonna set up our other one. So I do have flip over after crash. Where is it? So yeah, my beeper. We're gonna, oops, not this one. Let's remove this one. Beeper at range. This is the one I use for beeper.
Flight mode ping. Flight mode ping.
Perfect. I'm gonna move it over here. And then this is my flip over after crash. So let's see where we can find it. There, add range. We're gonna put it here. And then see how it says auto select here? As soon as I move one, it's gonna see it. Perfect, so everything is saved. We're gonna save this. Then we're gonna go to setup, we're gonna back up. We're gonna save this, perfect. Now we're gonna disconnect everything, put in the props, finish building it, and then we're gonna have a brand new drone. Oh, one thing I didn't check is the video feed. So let's check that right now.
Telemetry lost. Telemetry recovered.
Now we're gonna do a, see if we can find something here. Okay, we should be getting a signal, but I'm not getting a signal, so maybe, where is that crust in there? Okay, this is not hot, we're good. So I may have crossed wire somewhere because it's not picking up any of the channels here. Oh, it's picking something up now. Maybe I'm too close. Could be. Perfect. So I'm gonna double check my wiring here, and then make sure everything's good. Oh, I figured out. I had it in pit mode, so now I gotta fix this. I have it set up. So one thing I didn't check is if my camera is up or down. I'll quickly do a check of that.
Telemetry recovered.
Let's see here. Yeah, I gotta flip my camera, and then it should be good. Perfect. So now I'm just gonna finish putting it together.
Receiver still connected.
And see. Doesn't like it.
Telemetry lost.
And then we can take it for a flight. Let's see what happens. So this actually, the stick out a bit too much because it's actually touching the windings, and we don't want that. So I'm gonna have to use different screws. So I'm gonna put all of the motors except for this one, because if I still have to plug it in, you have to take it out every time. It's a bit annoying for this frame that you always have to take out the one motor to plug it in, or else you can't. And then the reason I'm putting this board this way is because there's a hole right there, so this has to line up with this. So for this plug. All right, let me just finish putting all this back together, and then we got to see if this drone's gonna fly. So these ones are too long still, so I think I'm gonna have to use those little spacer plates that they gave us to have those. So now let's see, this goes in there. That's funny. Perfect. Well, it works with the spacers, so that's how it's gonna be. Hopefully it doesn't push the prop out that it touches the ground. So we'll do all the other ones and then fire it up and see what happens. So I was gonna leave this one unhooked, but I think I'm gonna hook it up just to see how it flies, and then I have to take it off again, this motor. Perfect. So now what we're gonna do is gonna install the props on there and fire it up and see what happens. And if everything was good, then we gotta take it apart one more time to add power to the GoPro that's gonna go there. But first we're gonna make sure it flies. And then do the mods. So we got the GenFam 63mm 5 blades pusher props. So that's what we're going to install there. So the way I have it set up on the on BetaFlight is that the front motors actually spins this way. So we got to make sure we get the prop to spin the proper way, so it doesn't cause any issues during takeoff. The trick I found here for these props is you put the screws in there, put a little bit of pressure, and then you spin the prop on the motor until it drop until they line up. And then all you gotta do is screw them in and then they go right in. Perfect. So now I'm gonna plug this in, see if it flies, and then we go from there. So all right, so that did not go up as planned. So I'm gonna plug it in and see if my motors are spinning the proper way.
Telemetry lost.
All right, so let's connect this guy. It's gonna be interesting now because of all this gear in the way. Perfect. Where's the motor? I need to see it. Perfect. So now what we're gonna do is check how the motors are spinning right now. I'll get everything out of the way. Nothing gets caught in there. Perfect. I'm gonna hook up the battery.
Telemetry recovered.
I'm gonna go to motor tab, remove this, and then we're gonna see. So number one, that's the rear one. So this one. So we're not gonna touch this one. We'll do this one here, which is number 3 over here. Let's see which way it's spinning. This one's spinning the right way. We're gonna go to this one, number 4. Oh, there's something wrong with that one. We'll have to see what's wrong with this one. Then let's see this one here, number 2. Yeah, this one's spinning. Yeah, it's spinning the right way. And then what about this one here? All right, so I figured out what's wrong with the drone. It took me a little bit, but there's more here that I plug it in and you get to see that I had a motor issue. So let me just plug that in quickly. There. So if I arm it,
Disarmed.
okay, this one is not working good.
Disarmed. Disarmed.
So this one was over here and I moved it over to the back for the software person to check whether it was an ESC that was not good or a motor, and turns out it's a motor. So I'm pretty happy about that because now I can just put this one in there and see if we get this drone to fly finally. So this is my journey of making my first drone. So let me just quickly take this apart and then put in the new motor and then throw it all back together. So we're gonna fast forward the next part just to make it faster and then see if we can have this thing flying in no time. Perfect, so we're gonna remove this one quickly. So get all this out of the way. All right, perfect. Just change the motor in this thing. So now make sure the props are in the way they're supposed to be. Then we're gonna power it up and see if we can
Welcome to OpenCF.
have the motor spinning properly.
Throttle warning. Disarmed. Flight mode acro.
So a quick look here. Perfect. We're connected.
Disarmed. 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 Disarmed.
Well, now time to take it for a quick little test flight and see if it flies good. And then that'll be it.
Telemetry lost.
So I'm gonna put the battery in there. We're gonna secure it in there and hook it up. Actually, the way this comes out, looks like the battery should go this way. I'm gonna plug it in.
Telemetry recovered.
Perfect. Now, let's see if that thing will fly properly.
Disarmed. Disarmed.
And it is not. So, let's see. Maybe the motor is not spinning the right way.
Disarmed. Disarmed. Disarmed.
Well, now we have to hook it up to the computer. So, let's skip that part. All right, so now this is all done. What I'm going to do is hook it up to BetaFlight to see why the motors are not spinning properly. And then once I get it flying, I'll come back and let you know what I did. All right, guys, I finally figured out. So we had all 4 motors that were spinning in the same direction. So my goal was to get this one and this one to spin the other way. So I usually use the BHeli configurator to be able to change the direction of the motors, but for some reason the software kept crashing on me. So what I did is I just unsoldered the motors and just swap the wires, and then I got them to spin all the same direction. But then I like it when the props spin with this one counterclockwise and this one clockwise, but they were set up the other way. So I tried switching it in BetaFlight, but that also wasn't working properly. So I just swapped the props around, and now it actually flew. So the next step is to take it outside and fly it and see how it handles, and see, probably gonna have to tune it and then get it to fly properly. So this is it for this video. I'll post a different video when I do actually try to fly it outside, see how it goes, see if the motor gets hot or anything, and then go from there. So thank you for tagging along in this video on my first drone build. And then if you want to see more, don't forget to subscribe and then follow me for more.